Welcome, everyone, and happy International Education Week. It's been a week packed full of great content from Cialfo and from other partners, including the U.S. Department of State, Education Cultural Affairs, that released Open Doors reporting earlier this week in collaboration with our peers at the Institute for International Education, IIE, that revealed not surprising, but pretty stark data related to our subject today, China, the world's most populous country. And there was a steep decline, not unexpected again. But we're going to today explore with a wonderful panel that we've assembled the complexities and the current state to help guide you in the future of student mobility, of outreach and engagement with students within mainland China.
So I'm going to start from a more academic perspective. One of the actually most commonly used theories to look at international student mobility is the push and pull factors. Scholars have generally defined push factors being unfavorable conditions in students' home countries and pull factors being favorable conditions in host countries. And in the case of Chinese students studying in the US, the common push and pull factors include academic resources and freedom, research, networking and career opportunities, ability to choose and switch majors, the prestige of highly ranked institutions, so on and so forth. For the most part, these factors remain the same, and they will continue to be important and influential in Chinese students' decision to study in the United States. But that said, in recent years, as you have alluded to in the beginning, geopolitical tensions between the United States and China and the anti-China rhetoric of the Trump administration have really cast a very negative image of the United States as a study destination among Chinese families. And then the COVID-19 global pandemic and the subsequent surge of anti-Asian racism and the never-ending gun violence in the United States have also furthered Chinese families' concerns. You have to understand that many of these Chinese students are the only child of their family born under the one-child policy in China. So their Chinese families are particularly concerned about safety and well-being of their children. In the meantime, our main competitor countries, such as the UK and Canada, have boosted their recruitment efforts of Chinese students and implemented very welcoming and encouraging policies in terms of immigration policies to retain international talents after they finish their studies there. So it's not a surprise that it has become a norm over the last couple of years for Chinese students to apply to colleges in multiple destination countries all at once. This was never the case before.
I did extensive research, and both from the data that including Cialfo and from many resources. And we look at different mobility coming to Stony Brook. If I may, I summarize a few things of our outreach. For example, if our institution has ESL language programs or offer significant scholarship, I would go to the public schools and rural areas in China. Second or third tier cities, they are academically strong and prepared in the public school, and yet need language training. As we know, 3 in 5 children grown up in rural area in China, and the accessibility for English education is really an issue. And in those areas, the affordability also become limited. And so when we are in promoting U.S. education and our institution, when we have the resources to share with the students and parents in these areas, that become much more attractive to the students.
I have to say it's a unique challenge for us. There are lots of Chinese national students, as you said, that are attending schools around the world. And actually, unfortunately, they're not eligible to attend NYU Shanghai as international students.
That's right.
Because of the dual nature of our school, Chinese students must come up through the Gaokao system. And international students are international students. But for Chinese students, it's actually difficult it's actually impossible for them to come back to NYU Shanghai as a Chinese student because they're not prepared, of course, to take the Gaokao exam. And their high school education would not then qualify them to attend NYU Shanghai. So it's difficult for them.
I think, there's a great deal of education that needs to be done to bring Chinese families to the same to the level of understanding about the holistic review process at particularly highly selective colleges in the United States. That test score is only one part of the many things that we look at. But you also have to understand that the obsession with test scores in China has very deep roots, given the 1,000-year-old test-based system of selecting talents or officials in China, and as well as the college entrance exam system in China as well. Everything is based on a score. So for Chinese students to suddenly apply to schools in a country where the system does not only look at the test score, really gives them anxieties, and they feel a sense of loss throughout the process, because now they are at a loss of how to prepare for the admission process. So even though the message is being very clear from the U.S. side, even with, I don't know the specific number now, maybe over 1,700 colleges and universities who have adopted a test optional policy and have made it clear that without testing, their application will not be in a disadvantage, you still see a high level of resistance to the notion of test optional among Chinese families. So given the opportunity, they would still take the test.
I think the first point I want to make is, it seems like all decision makers are taking a holistic approach. And what do I mean by that? We know U.S. admission review process is a holistic process, right? We're not only looking at grades, but we want to see who the student is as a person. And this same process and mindset, we're seeing more and more students and parents are actually using when they're making decisions on where to apply and enroll. So FIT is no longer just about ranking or following the American dream blindly, right? They're looking at things that we mentioned previously, safety, employability, work visas, looking at the whole package, right? So knowing this, an obvious question that as university reps we might ask is, have we really talked enough in our previous recruitment sessions about the things or the factors that parents and students really care about? Secondly, I think it might also be wise to consider widen your recruitment pool. So pre-COVID, you might have feeder schools where when you come to visit in China in person, you might have a fixed set of schools, right? You go to visit. But going forward, is that going to be sufficient pipeline for you? Counselor connection, building that is super important. How do you do that? China ICAC, I'm not sure if you guys have all heard of it. I know Xiaofeng is one of the board members, and I just recently joined as a committee member. So, that's a great way to get connected with universities and with high schools in the region. And then, of course, you also have Cialfo, right? We work with over 350 schools in the region across different cities. So do take advantage of us so that you can build that connection.